Hello.
Cello.
What up? We back.
Hi.
Episode 7?
7.
7.
You win or you die.
7. 7.
7. 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there 10 episodes each season? Until you get towards the end, and then it's like 8?
I think so.
Right.
I think it's 10 each season, and then it gets... Yeah, it's stupid at the end. I don't know.
All right, whatever.
Wait, I wish you would have asked me earlier.
I think it is.
7, 8, 9, 10. Yes.
Cool.
Yes. Okay, so episode 7. You win or you die. Ready?
Let's get it. Let's get this shit cracking.
All right, so it opens on the Lannister party. They're in the field. Tywin is... Well, we meet Tywin. He's butchering an animal.
Yeah, we finally see him. It just kind of like happens.
Yeah, you just gotta assume that that's Tywin because he's being badass.
And he just has he has this presence.
Yeah, exactly.
And I remember the first time I saw this, I was like, "Holy shit, that's the bad guy from Last Action Hero."
Oh yeah, that's exactly what you said. Yeah. Jaime's reading the Raven that was sent by Ned Stark. You know, the one that says that you need to answer for the crimes
for
and
butchering his men.
Yeah. And Jaime says, he says about Ned, he says, brave man, poor of judgment, though. He says, Tywin says that attacking Ned was stupid.
Yeah.
He was like, you shouldn't have done it the way you did, at least.
That was dumb.
And he says, Lannisters don't act like fools. And Tywin's like, I guess you're going to say something clever now, right? And then he was like, go ahead, say it. And
say something, bitch.
Yeah. And Jaime says, well, Catelyn Stark took my brother. And Tywin responds and he says, well, why is Ned alive? Or he says, why is he alive? And Jaime says, well, because a man interfered before I could finish him off. And Tywin says, no, bitch, why is he alive?
Okay, so
yeah,
so he interfered, so he didn't kill him, but he hurt him?
Yeah.
So why didn't you kill him right then and there?
Yeah. And so Jaime said, well, it wouldn't have been clean. And Tywin says,
like snickered at it.
Yeah, and he's like, Lannisters don't care what people think about them. And he's like, does the Kingslayer nickname bother you? And Jaime's like, well, of course it does. And Tywin says, well, lions don't care about the opinion of sheep.
Boom.
Yeah.
Good line.
Yep. So Tywin says that he'll give Jaime I think it was 30,000.
Yeah.
30,000 men to take the Stark girls home.
Oh, no. Hell no. 30,000?
I thought it was 30,000.
No, that's a shitload. I think.
Yeah, but they have a huge army.
That's so much, but yeah.
Okay, well, whatever. I could be wrong. I thought it was...
I don't remember exactly.
I don't know. Anyway, he says to exchange the Stark girls for Tyrion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he says he of course has to get his kicks of Tyrion in, even though he's not there. He says even though Tyrion's basically the lowest Lannister there is, you still save him because it's the house that if you don't, your house isn't feared.
Yeah, the house is looking shittier by the day.
Yeah,
if he stays
captive. Yeah, which is a big fuck you to Tywin. He doesn't even know right now that Tyrion got himself out of that issue.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he
doesn't
even need your help. Yeah, so Tywin talks about how soon all of them, Tywin, Jaime, Cersei, the kids, they'll all be rotting in the ground. That honor and personal honor and glory don't live on. The family name is.
Just the name is what's important.
And that's what you need to pay attention to. And he says that Jaime is blessed to belong to the most powerful family in the kingdoms. And he says you're also blessed to still have your youth, but you're wasting both of them by being a servant to two different kings. One that was mad and one that's a drunk.
Yeah.
And he says, Tywin says that we need to establish a dynasty that will last for years. And he said, he is a final, again, fuck you to Jaime. He says, I need you to become the man you were always meant to be. Not tomorrow, not in a year, now.
Right meow.
Yeah, right meow. Do I look like a cat boy? So we got to Cersei. She walks up to Ned, who's sitting outside. She says, you're in pain. Ned says he's been through worse. She says, perhaps it's time for you to go home now. Ned says that he knows the truth about everything, and Cersei says, oh, is that why you called me here?
Yup.
So Ned asks if Robert's hit her before because she has the mark on her cheek.
Yeah.
And she says something about how if Jaime knew, he would
kill him.
He would kill him, and then she says that's why, Jaime's a better man than Ned, basically. And then Ned goes, your brother or your lover? Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Threw that in there.
So then Cersei says, she talks about how the Targaryens have always wedded brother to sister, and that her and Jaime are more than just brother and sister, that they were together in the womb, so they're kind of like meant to be.
Always together.
Yeah. So she says, Ned says, my son saw you with Jaime, and that's what happened, and she doesn't deny that at all. And he says, your children are Jaime's children. And she says, yeah, thank God. Or she said, thank the gods.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she says that she was super happy to marry Robert until he climbed on her on their wedding night and called her Lyanna.
Yeah, and was a chump in the sack too. It was like lousy sex, and he called her another name.
Yeah.
So it was like all around just a gigantic letdown.
Yeah.
That's why you don't meet your idols.
Yeah, exactly. And you definitely don't fuck them. Ned says that Cersei needs to go and she needs to take the children before Robert comes back, because when he comes back, when Ned tells him the truth, he'll hunt her down and kill her. And Cersei says that Ned should have taken the throne for himself. She says when, after the rebellion, Jaime told me that he came into the throne room and you could have taken the throne then yourself, but you didn't. You should have. That's where you made a mistake. And she says, when you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. You win or you die. There is no middle ground. And she walks away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure he wanted nothing to do with that throne, even back then.
Oh, no. Not at all. Ned's he's not that guy.
Well, he likes the North. That's his shit.
Mm-hmm.
He's that guy.
Well, and he was never meant to rule. I mean, again, he's the second brother. He was groomed to serve. He wasn't groomed to lead. Because his brother was meant to be Lord.
But he's a good dude. He's a solid dude, and
he does what he needs to do for family, for honor.
Yeah, but the North isn't like an outrageous place, so it's fitting for him.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm saying like there's a reason that, well, besides the fact that Robert was the one with quote unquote Targaryen blood, Robert is a brother who could lead. He was. Ned, again, it's like Bran. Bran never thought that he was going to be Lord Stark because he's the third in line.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's not meant to be that.
Just not in the cards for you.
Yeah. So, anyway. We cut to Littlefinger. He's at his whorehouse. Rosalind's finally there. She got there quick.
She got there really quick.
Yeah.
And
she's getting eaten out.
And she's giving the super fake orgasm.
Yeah.
And then I guess like this shows that like the northerners are like dumber
and bad at sex. Yeah.
So she's just like, oh, and they're like, yeehaw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, like think about like now it makes more sense with Theon where it's like, oh man, she didn't even have to do anything, and you think you're like
for sure,
King Dick.
But then you get into the big city, and there's like a bajillion. There's a bunch of other girls doing this. There's like way more people, all different types of people from all different types of places. So, yeah.
And these men aren't dumb.
Definitely.
They've actually fucked, and they know what a woman sounds like.
And she's fine.
Yeah.
So she'll probably get with some higher rollers.
Yeah. So Littlefinger's like, yeah, you need to stop doing that bullshit, like, and get on it, like,
It's not a good look.
Yeah, you need to step up your game a little bit.
Take your time, baby.
Yeah, so he says that you need to ease into it. You need to make everyone win. He says we all, like, when you are in this situation, men know what you're there for. They know what they paid for, but you need to make them forget that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Rosalind eventually invites Littlefinger to join. He says, I'm saving myself for another. And she says, well, what she doesn't know won't hurt her. And he said, that's a stupid line. He says, what we don't know will get us killed. And he said that the woman he loves has an impeccable bloodline, which is quite a weird.
Well, she says something, and then he responds with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember what she says.
And that he's loved her for many years, most of his life. He said that she loved him too, and that she would tell him anything, basically. And that...
Loved him as a little buddy.
Yeah. And that one day he finally challenged her suitor, which we all know is Brendan, to a duel. and that he lost, and that the woman he loved said that he's just a boy, don't hurt him. So Brendan just left him with the scar. And so Rosalind asks about the woman, and she says, is she still married to him? And he said, well, actually got himself killed before the wedding, but she married his brother, who is actually better than he is. And then he says he's just so good, but he says good is to what she's doing, which by this point is finger fucking this girl. Yeah.
But yeah, better than him, I guess.
Yeah, he says that Ned is more honorable than Brendan was.
Okay, I got you.
Because Brendan probably would have played the game a little bit more.
Okay.
Ned is truly
I see what you're
a
saying.
dumb northerner who is 100. I mean, that's what gets him killed.
For sure.
His honor is what gets him killed.
Yeah, not being more slick.
He's given multiple. I mean, well, really what gets him killed is Joffrey going off the wire. But he's given multiple chances to just bend the knee and be able to go back north, and he never takes it because he doesn't. He thinks he's doing what's best for the realm because that's the honorable thing to do. Minus the fact that he allowed Robert to have that rebellion, but he thought it was the best thing to do.
Yep.
Yeah. So, So Littlefinger says, do you know what I learned during the duel? And he said, I'll never win that way. I'm not going to fight like them. So what I'm going to do is fuck them.
Yeah. So I fucked them.
Yeah. And he said, only by admitting what we can, what we are, can we get what we want. And he says he wants everything there is. Just everything.
I want it all. I want it all. Yeah.
Yep. So cuts to Winterfell. Asha is carrying
Osha's in there making sure everything's safe and shit.
She's carrying like straw in, I guess, to make brooms.
I guess to make like a shitty bed.
I don't know.
I thought she was making a shitty bed.
Well, there's
for
a
herself.
broom behind her, but maybe a bed
okay.
would
Yeah,
make
you're
more
right.
sense with the amount she has.
Maybe she's making little Dwight dolls.
Hopefully.
She's
What's
gonna
the
make
beast?
herself
The Straw King.
She's gonna be Hay King.
Hay King.
I bet you did, but that's gonna be another $3. So what happened next?
Theon walks up behind her. He says, "You're a very lucky girl. You know that." And he says, "Where he comes from, they don't show mercy." Which again, like you even know, Theon.
For sure, he doesn't know. He's always talking shit.
Yeah, he said that she would be chained up outside, right outside on the beach, during low tide, waiting for high tide to come in, and that you would just be there waiting for the water to slowly creep up and drown you.
Yeah.
And he says, "Well, I'm from the Iron Islands," and she's like, and he's like, "You've never heard of it?"
Yeah, it's like telling Andy you don't know what Cornell is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so he says, well, she's like, "Well, you've never heard where I'm from either, so like,
Yeah.
And he was like, "You need to call me Lord," and she's like, "Why?" And he's like,
"That's the rules here."
Yeah, and so he tells her, well, yes, ultimately that's what the rules are, but when she's like, "Why?" He's like, "My father is," and she's like, "Okay, what's that got to do with you?"
Oh yeah, it's like okay, so what? Why are we talking about your dad? We're talking about you.
Yeah, and so he's like, "Well, he's a lord, and when he passes away," and so she's like, "Hold on, so you're not a lord now, so I don't need to call you that, right?" And so she says that she doesn't understand how the Southerners do things, and he's like, "I'm not a Southerner," and she's like, "Anyone south of the wall is a Southerner to us."
Yeah.
Like, So then Theon, he gets a little handsy, grabs her face, but that's when the maester walks in, and kind of burns Theon a little bit and tells him to go on.
Piss off.
Yeah. And so Osha's
in there again, just
Shut
making
up.
sure everything's up to code.
Asha said that she's used to worse men than Theon, and that the men she knew could chew him up and pick their teeth with his bones. And the maester asked her why she came there. She said that she didn't mean to, that they were trying to get as south could go before the long night comes.
Yeah.
She says there are things that hunt at night, and the maester says the things you speak of have been gone for thousands of years. And she's like, they haven't been gone, they've been sleeping, and they're not sleeping any longer.
So There's that info for you.
I think she actually said, they sleep no more.
You can now begin to be scared.
And you can suck it and you suck it.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah. So we go to the wall. Sam's talking about how he misses girls, not talking to them, of course, but
Girls.
just looking at them and hearing them giggle.
Just hearing them giggle.
Yeah, and he asked John if he misses girls, but John's not paying attention because he doesn't miss girls.
No.
Yeah. He's staring at something in the woods, which we come to find out is a horse, and Sam's like, "Oh, it's a rider. We need to blow the horn."
Need to blow. Yeah.
And
One
John's like,
blast for a rider, but then John's like,
"There's no rider. It's just a
that's
horse."
A horse.
Yeah. So they come down from the wall, which they make it look like it doesn't take that long, but it's a lot.
Oh,
I mean,
know
that
that shit took a while. Yeah, exactly. I was thinking that same thing, and they're just like, boom, down there. I was like, well, shit, like, so many things could have happened to this horse by the time you guys got to the bottom. Like, how do you even know where the fuck the horse is now? Because it's taken you at least 15 minutes to get down here.
Absolutely. So, it's
Either
Uncle.
way, they found the horse.
They find the horse. It's Uncle Benjamin's horse. And John turns to Lord Commander Mormont, and he's like, "Where's my uncle?" And it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, how the fuck would I know?
I know as much as you.
You were out there farther than I was. Yeah. I haven't even left here.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys
tell
were
me.
up there. Yeah. So we cut back to King's Landing. Renly, Ned's walking. Renly runs up behind him, and he's like, "It's Robert. You need to come. We were hunting a boar." That's all he says.
Yeah, and he has
Blood on him. Yeah. It cuts to Joffrey. He's sitting bedside looking like he's about to cry. He's like, is he holding hands with Robert? Or
Yeah.
Yeah. Robert is saying that he should have spent more time with Joff.
Made him Joff.
Joff.
Should have kicked it with Joff more, dog.
Well, that's what Cersei calls him.
Joff?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I don't think I've ever picked up on that.
Yeah. Well, it's just easier to write in my notes, but whatever. Actually, I put J, but
I'm gonna call him Free.
okay.
How about that?
So Robert tells Free to leave.
No, you can call him
no. He says, I should have spent more time with you. I should have shown you how to be a man. I was never meant to be a father.
And then after that, the hand was not held anymore.
No. Ned comes in. That's when Robert tells Free to leave. He says, you don't want to see this. Cersei and Pycelle are there. They're in the corner acting weird. Robert says that it was his fault, that he had too much wine and he missed the thrust that he had made towards the boar.
Just missed that Just missed the thrust.
Yeah, he that's what she said. He has a blanket over him, so Ned turns it down, and you can see that his whole side is basically ripped up.
Yeah, his skin is like open, like he tried to open a can of something like green beans or something, and you don't have a can opener.
Yeah,
so you just try to use like different tools and like screwdrivers.
Just do
and
whatever you can to get as big of a hole.
Butter
in the middle of
knives
it
and
as
shit.
possible.
Yeah, that's what his skin looked like.
He says Robert says it stinks like death, and he says that he paid the boar back though. He drove his knife right through the brain, and then he says, "I wanted the funeral feast to
I want everyone to eat this thing."
Yeah, exactly. Robert then dismisses everyone but Ned. Cersei goes, "Robert, my sweet." And
yeah, it's like please don't give him anything in secret.
Yeah, don't give him anything in secret.
For sure.
Don't. She kind of exchanges a look with Ned because, of course, she's like, "Are you gonna tell him before he dies?"
Yeah.
You're gonna start this shit now?
That's probably more what it is. Like, I was thinking that she knows that he's gonna like get him to write something up. But yeah, it's definitely more you're gonna tell him.
Yeah.
You're gonna spill the beans.
Yep. So Ned calls Robert a fool once they're in private. And Robert's like, yeah, you're right. And so he's like, can you just get a piece of paper and write this shit down? Which is pretty funny. He's like, all the titles, just you know what to say. And so he says, I hereby command Eddard of House Stark to serve as Lord Regent and Protector of the Realm until my son Joffrey comes of age. But Ned writes rightful heir instead of Joffrey's name. Robert signs it without reading it and says to give it to the council after he's dead. And he says, at least they'll say that I did one thing right. And he says, Ned, you should rule. And he was like, you'll hate it, but you'll do well. And Robert says that Ned was right. There was no reason to kill Dany and to let her live. Stop it if it's not too late. And then his final plea is to help Joffrey. He said, "My son, help him, Ned. Make him better than me." And Ned says that he'll do everything he can to honor Robert's memory. And Robert kind of laughs and he goes, "Gods," and he goes, "King Robert Baratheon murdered by a pig."
Yeah. Well, you're a fat drunk, so
Yeah.
it's pretty like fitting death
Well, I
for
think
you.
he realizes that now too. And so then Robert asks for something to stop the pain and he says, "Just let me die." So Ned walks out and Barrister walks up and says that Robert commanded them all to step aside and that no man, and Ned says, "Well, no man can protect Robert from himself. Like,
Yeah.
you know, when he wants to do something, he'll do something." Varys, he comes up and of course starts some shit right away. And so he's like, who gave him the wine?
Yeah, and yeah, it brings it up in a way that's like he's not really saying
Yeah.
that's what happened, and he's like inquiring about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, he was
other people
stewing.
think
He
about
was
it.
stewing it. Stewing it.
throwing it out there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, of course, Barristan, it says that it was his squire, and he said from his own skin. And Ned says the Lannister boy, because, you know, for some reason they don't call him Lancel. There's
Yeah.
like a million Lannister boys, but whatever. And then Varys goes again in his little like, he goes, "Well, I hope Lancel doesn't blame himself for this death." And so Ned says, "All right, well, that's weird. Stop talking about that, though. Robert changed his mind. He doesn't want Dany dead. Can you undo it?" And Varys says, "Sorry, those birds have flown."
Yeah, it's been a little while since we gave that order.
Yeah, and he's like, "Likely she's dead already." So we cut to Khal Drogo and Dany. She's braiding his hair, and they're talking about the dirt where Dany is born because she's saying dirt instead of land.
Yeah.
Yeah. He says, "No more talk about iron chairs," and she says, "No, it's not a chair," and she couldn't think of the Dothraki word for it. So
I don't
she
think there
says
is
throne.
one.
Yeah, I think that's the point. There's no word for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she says, it's a seat made for a king," and Drogo says a king doesn't need to sit on a chair, only his horse, and he kind of leaves just with that.
Out of here.
Yeah. So they go to a market. Dany and Jorah and the handmaidens and all of them are at a market. Khal Drogo's not there. I don't think he just like hangs
Yeah,
out
they're
at
just
the
walking
market.
around.
Yeah. Dany asks if Jorah can tell Khal Drogo how important it is for her to go home, that he doesn't really seem to care about her mission and how, like, you know, her going back. And so Jorah's like, "Well, you know, they do what they want to do at the time that they do it, that there's always, like, you know, a drive or a reason, and that to them, you know, your wants aren't really necessary because it's like
not the top of their priority list
Yeah,
at the moment.
it's like so far away. It's a land that they don't care about. They've never cared about it because they don't know it."
Exactly.
Yeah. So she's talking about how she's a Targaryen and that the throne is rightfully hers. And Jorah was like, "Well, I mean, technically yes, but like the Targaryens just took that land. It's not like the land is rightfully yours. You just say it's rightfully yours because you're a Targaryen from that line.
Truth.
But, you know, that's not, you know, all of this stuff can change based on things that happen, like the rebellion. So now, even though, yes, it's rightfully yours, it's not rightfully yours. And that's how Khal Drogo sees it. And so Jorah asks her if she's ever seen a dragon. And of course she's like, "Nope." And he says, "Well, it's been about 300 years since someone saw one. And, you know, at this time, until that kind of comes back, it really doesn't seem like the Targaryens are going to do very much. And you just need to kind of wait."
Yeah.
So,
Because none of them are gonna want to do shit until Jason Momoa is hyped on
exactly.
going across the
And
water.
at this point, the Seven Kingdoms has forgotten about Targaryens, except for Robert, who just wants her dead because he doesn't want anyone to overthrow him. But now he's dead, and Joffrey is not going to care about her at all.
Because it's
Why
like
would he?
out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah,
does not
she's
give a
never
shit.
been a threat. She was gone before Joffrey was born. I mean, the rebellion was, I mean, depending on how old Joffrey's supposed to be, I think it's like 6 years before he was born.
Yeah, well, they say he's been king for 17 years, about 17, 18 years.
Yeah, I'm pretty
And
sure Joff's
Joffrey
supposed to be
I
like
guess
12.
he's about to be like 12 to
I think he's
let's
supposed
say
to like 12
14.
to 13. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, in there.
Yeah.
So okay.
So a handful of years, and
Before he
Joffrey
was born.
born. Yeah.
So he knows nothing, cares nothing,
He's a sweet summer child.
doesn't
yeah.
give a shit.
Yeah.
Spoiled. Just wants his riches and his servants.
And wants to be cruel
And
because he can be.
And he's like,
He's definitely a psychopath.
yeah, and I think he's gay.
Hmm.
We don't get that far because he dies so young. But
Well, even the few times he's presented with a woman, he doesn't do anything with her but torture her.
that's what I mean.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I think he's like a weirdo, but I think
It could be.
deep down he's gay, but it wouldn't have come out until he was older.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
because look when he kisses her.
Yeah,
That
it's
first
very
time?
awkward.
No, he does. He like kind of pulls away like the
Mhm.
first time he kisses Sansa.
Yeah.
Or
Interesting.
second time maybe. I don't know.
I'll have to look into the fan theories of that one.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's there.
I'm sure they're there.
Yeah. So Jorah says he's got to go see if there's any letters for him.
Sorry, my chair keeps creaking. By the way, I'm about to move. It's real. I'm in a recliner.
Yeah.
Not very professional.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do? So Jorah says, I'm going to go see if there's any letters for me and tells Dany to just enjoy the market and that he'll catch up. So as he walks away, a little boy spies him and he says, Jorah the Endel. And so Jorah comes over and the kid congratulates him and says it's a royal pardon and hands him a letter.
You can finally go home.
Yep, and says you can finally go home. So then we hear a man, he's yelling about all the wines he has, and Dany walks up and he asks her if she wants to try a sweet red from Dorne. By that point, Jorah has caught up with them. He's just kind of watching what's going on.
She was like, okay, yeah, let me get that.
Yeah. And so she says something to him and he realizes that she's speaking the common tongue. And so he says, my lady, you're from Westeros. And one of her handmaidens is like, oh, you have the honor of speaking to Daenerys Targaryen, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So
he's like, oh shit, you know what? In that case, let me get this poison.
Yeah, let me get this summer wine that's definitely not poison. I mean, don't drink this summer wine that's
He's like, you don't
terrible.
you
Get
don't want
this dry red that's definitely not poison.
You don't want this Dornish swill.
Yeah. So he gives her another cask of wine that's supposed to be this like dry red. One of the Blood Riders takes it, but then that's when Jorah walks up and he says, no, I want to taste it now. And he's like, open it. And the guy's like, no, I'm giving it to the Khaleesi. Like, why? You can't demand this. And so, of course, Dany's like, open it.
Yeah, open it.
Open it. So Jorah's like, I want a glass. And so the guy's like, you have to let it breathe. And
yeah,
he's
he
like,
pops it, then he's like, well, all right, let me have it. And he's like, oh, you got to let this chill for a while. It would be fucked up if you don't let this breathe. It's too beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, well, actually, about that, fuck that. Pour it.
Yeah. So he pours a little bit. He hands it to Jorah. Jorah sniffs it.
He's like looking like he's about to sip it, and then
Yeah.
he's like, you drink it, bitch.
Yeah. So then the guy's like, well, it's not worthy. I'm not worthy of the vintage, which is the most hipster thing
For
you could
sure,
say.
you pretentious bitch. Like, oh, no.
No.
I'm not worthy of this vintage.
Yeah, but then Dany demands it. The merchant goes like he's gonna drink it, but then he just drops the glass.
Spin move. Outta here.
He spin moves. He pushes or hits Dany.
I don't know.
And then he runs away. But one of the Blood Riders, whips
Indiana
it.
Jones his shit.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
rips him onto the ground.
Yeah, and that's when and so Jorah pulls Dany away, and they walk away, and they, get the guy and like take him with them.
Yeah.
So we cut to Castle Black. There's like they're doing the ceremony about all of the new inductees. Lord Commander says it doesn't matter what your past is, all of it's past. At the wall, they're all one house. And he said, Sam turns to Jon, who looks the way he always looks, but Sam goes, you should be happy. Well, yeah, he doesn't look any different, Sam, so I don't know why you think he's not happy right
Looks
now.
at John?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's always pouty.
He's got the same face all the time.
Stern pout.
Yeah. So he says, you should look happy. You're going to be a ranger. Isn't that what you've always wanted? And Sam says that he's not going to make ranger, obviously, that it's the steward's life for him. And he said there's no honor in being a steward, but there's food. Because, Sam's always about the food.
He likes girls giggle and some good bread.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He said a man of the Night's Watch lives his life for the realm. And sorry. Lord Commander says that. He says a man of the Night's Watch lives his life for the realm, and that they've all learnt the words to think carefully before they say them, because the penalty for desertion is death. And he says that anyone who keeps the old gods, who wants to take a vow before the Heart Tree, can go to the Weirwood that's about a mile north of the wall.
Well, they ask if anyone is, and only John stands up.
Yeah, because he's badass. And
when everybody else is just like a street rat.
Well,
So they
most
don't-
of them will keep the new gods.
Yeah, and then he's like, all right, well, you can go out to the outside the wall,
Yeah,
because
So
there's a tree right there. And then Sam's like,
I want to go too.
I'm gonna go too.
And so he says, I didn't realize that your house kept the old gods. And Sam says, well, no, I was born in the light of the seven, but they've never answered any of my prayers, so
Yeah.
maybe the old gods will.
Yeah, their magic doesn't work.
Yeah, clearly.
Not for me.
And I don't know why, but the first time I read this story, I was like, oh, I definitely like the old gods better. No reason. They just have cooler trees. That's pretty much it.
Oh, I'll get to the tree thing when we get to the tree part.
Okay. So they start reading off who goes where, who's assigned to what
Yeah, if
position.
you're like, what are the different? You're a builder,
Builder, steward,
steward, or
ranger.
A ranger.
I feel like
I
there's one
thought it was
more.
just 3. I think it's just 3.
Oh, it is just 3. Yeah.
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 You're building shit. You're helping, preparing, fixing, cleaning,
Or
or
you're
you're
ranging.
cutting shit down.
Yeah.
Or protecting.
Yeah. So John ends up as a steward, which everyone looks confused at because everyone thought he'd be a ranger.
He's the best one there.
I mean, he's also, not only is he best of the new guys coming in, but he's also, I mean, it's clear that John has a talent for combat.
Yeah.
It's not just that he's really good.
Yeah, he should
he's
be like-
he's a natural.
He should be like lead ranger.
Yeah. He's definitely someone who it's like, he was going to make something of himself in that sense. So it is confusing until later when you hear like, oh, obviously, what does he do? What are they doing here? He's being groomed to be the Lord Commander.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So John looks and sees Alistair Thorne, and of course Thorne's smiling. And so John takes, because he's a child, he's like, oh, this is
you
his
did,
fault.
Yeah, you did this.
Yeah. So John's dumbfounded. He walks over to Maester Aemon, who's giving all the stewards their tasks. He says Jon Snow, Lord Commander Mormont, has requested you to be his personal steward. John's like, so I gotta serve him and shit. And Maester Aemon's like, you'll do as you're told.
Yeah. You gotta serve him. You gotta you gotta make his bed. You gotta clean his clothes. You gotta organize his Sega Genesis cartridges. You gotta do his fucking homework.
Mm-hmm.
And at night, you go and clip the hair on his balls. Don't give him any fucking lip.
Yeah, exactly. Don't do it. Sorry, my notes moved. John says he's no servant. Lord Maester Aemon says that he was like, oh, I took you for a man of the Night's Watch. So, we said you're a steward. So be a steward.
Yeah. Go be
And-
all the steward that you can be.
Yeah. And so John, and I said this when it happened, John gets pissy and he pushes Sam, which is like,
He pushes by Sam. I
yeah,
think
but there's
you know
no
why?
reason.
You know why? That was a call out for help. He was like,
I think
Sam,
so. Like, follow me.
like Sam, clearly I need someone to talk to. and
yeah,
I'm
come
going
talk to
now."
me, please.
That's what that
You're
was.
right.
but
That's a
he's-
guy thing, right?
Yeah, it must have been. That's what it was.
Whereas like I would it would just be like, Donna.
Exactly. It's like you're with your girl or you're with your guy and you like storm off and then like they're not following you. You notice and they're 20 feet behind you. Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing?
Yeah, what are you doing here?
I think that's what that was. He needed a friend, but he's too macho to ask.
Yeah, okay. So
He didn't wanna
okay,
look like
that's
a
what it
bitch.
was. That's what it is. So he doesn't want to look like a bitch. So of course Sam follows him and consoles him.
Because he's a big fat sweetie.
Yeah, and so John says it's not fair, and that's when Pip enters and he says, look, I was singing a song and some lord put his hand on my thigh and I knocked it off, and he said he would cut my hand off or send me to the wall or some shit.
Yeah.
And so he was like, so life's not fair and you need to stop whining because life sucks for all of us.
And then John's just sitting there looking shocked, like, damn. He's here just because some dude tried to grab his dick.
Yeah, well then
That is a
Sam
bummer.
said, I thought you were there because you stole cheese for your sister. And he's like, do you think I'm going to tell somebody that somebody tried to touch my dick?
Yeah, I want to be known as the guy that's here because he got his dick touched
Yeah.
by some dude.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no.
No,
So
thanks.
that's
I'll be the cheese
when-
guy
Yeah,
instead.
so that's when John like softens and realizes that he's being a little ridiculous.
Could be things could be worse.
Could be
dude.
worse. And that's when Sam's like, John, use your brain here. The Lord Commander personally asked for you. You're going to be with him all day and all night. You're going to know everything. He's grooming you for command. So open your eyes and see what's going on and be like okay with it. Because just because you're a steward doesn't mean that it's like the worst thing in the world.
Quit looking pouty.
Yeah, so John just goes, oh, well, I know. I'm just like, I always wanted to be a ranger. And Sam goes, well, I always wanted to be a wizard. Which is one of the best lines ever.
And it made John laugh,
Yeah.
which probably only happens 3 times in the whole series.
Yeah, a handful of times. I think Ygritte makes him laugh quite a bit.
I would fucking
his
hope
dick.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes his dick laugh, that's for
His
sure.
Dick laugh, definitely. Renly, so we cut to Renly. He's outside of like Ned's chambers, or he just meets Ned in the hall, I guess. I'm not sure exactly where they are. Sorry, stretching. He asks for a moment alone with Ned, and Renly goes, Robert named you protector of the realm, and Renly says, we need to get Joff away from Cersei tonight.
Joffrey?
Joff away.
We need to get Joffrey.
We need to get Joff
Okay,
away.
so
He said anyone who holds the king holds the kingdom, and that the best thing for the kingdom is for what's best for the people is to have, the roles that they have. He's like, we need to take control of Joff, get him away from Cersei so that she can't put her claws in him any further. And Ned says, I think we need to get Stannis here because he's the rightful heir, because Joffrey is not Robert's child.
and he's like, oh, Stannis is kind of a buster.
Yeah, and so, yeah,
Maybe.
he says Stannis inspires no love or loyalty. He's no king. And Renly says, I am, though. And Ned's like, what are you talking about? You're the youngest son.
And he's like, your brother's led like 2 wars.
Yeah,
And he's like, okay.
yeah. And he
What
said,
does that
well,
have to do with anything?
yeah, he said Stannis is a commander, but he said, do you still believe that good soldiers make good kings?
And he didn't really have shit to say to that.
Yeah, because he's got a good point, because Robert was not a good king.
Definitely.
So Ned says that he would not dishonor Robert in his last hours by shedding blood in the walls and pulling children from their beds. So he's like, I'm not doing that. And Renly's like, okay, well, every man for himself. Pretty
Yeah.
much. So we cut to Ned. He's giving a man a letter. He says to give it directly to Stannis. No one but Stannis. Don't give it to his wife. Don't give it to the maester.
Not his-
directly to Stannis.
Yeah, no one.
And that's when Littlefinger enters. And Ned dismisses the other guy. And Littlefinger says, my Lord Protector. Because of course everyone already knows.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Of course.
Ned just outright says that the king has no true-born sons. He's like, the king has no true-born sons.
Right
And,
there.
Yeah.
Boom.
And that the throne should pass to Stannis. And Littlefinger goes, unless. And Ned goes, there's no unless. It goes to Stannis. That's the way the line works. And so Littlefinger says, well, it shouldn't go to Stannis, that you should take it. Saying Ned should take it. And he said, make peace with the Lannisters, or at least the Imp. And if Joffrey causes problem, then we'll reveal his history and we'll put Renly on the throne.
Yep.
Which is actually, in hindsight, should have been what Ned did.
Not
He
a-
should have partnered with Littlefinger to stay in here.
Not a terrible plan, but it would have turned out bad anyway.
Oh, obviously.
Ultimately.
But yeah. So Ned says, you suggest treason, and Littlefinger says, it's only if we lose.
Yeah.
And so Ned says that he still wants to make peace with the people, or he says, you want me to make peace with the people who try to kill my boy. And Littlefinger says, so it'll be Stannis and more? And Ned says, yep, pretty much. That's what I'm doing here. And so Littlefinger's like, then why did you call me here? And Ned's like, I have one last thing to ask of you. And he said, you promised Catelyn to help, and I need the gold cloaks, the city watch. And he said, Littlefinger says, he says, you know what you want me to do. You know what needs to be done, but the words stick in your mouth because it's not quite honorly. And he was like, you're asking for me to buy the gold cloaks for you so that when the time comes that they will take Cersei and Joffrey under your captive. So, Littlefinger agrees to do that though, because of course he does. So, Jon and Sam, they're walking north of the wall under the gate. Ghost is with them. There's a few other men. They're going to say their vows. It cuts to them at the tree. Do you want to talk about the tree here?
The tree, okay. You told me years ago, why did the trees have faces, and how did the faces get there, and what's going on with the trees?
Okay, so...
And they, like, cry blood and shit, right?
Well, it's sap, but it looks like blood.
Okay, it's just sap.
So the faces, it's been a long while, so... Forgive me if this is not 100% correct, but I believe that the children of the forest carved the faces in the trees so that the old gods could, that's how they were able to see.
Ah, okay.
You know, so the old gods are, that faith is dying out. The new gods are what most people believe in. So when the Targaryens took over the realm, they started burning all the weirwoods.
Oh, so it's hard to find one. That's why they're like, oh, if there is anyone, there's one like over there, and take a left and then a right, and there's one there.
Yeah, that's like Winterfell has a really big heart tree. And it's like supposed to be this like big thing because it's one of the only, it's one of the ones left.
Big ass ones.
The one that Bran ends up, the one where the three-eyed raven is, the giant one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's like supposed to be like the one of the one,
Got it.
One tree.
One tree.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's what the heart tree is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it looks like those stupid ass faces you can buy at like Lowe's.
Yeah.
That my mom has.
Yeah.
That you can put on the trees.
Put on
and it makes them look like they're like, smiling.
Yeah, it's a bummer because I really, really like the visual of that, but it does always remind me of when we get to your mom's house and she has those stupid ass face trees.
It screams cheesy.
Yeah,
if you have
really
those, I guess that just means you're cheesy. I mean, whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's fine. But anyway. So some of the words, I didn't obviously write them all, but some of the ones I like and just have a little meaning. That I am the sword in the darkness, the watcher of the walls. I'm the shield that guards the realms of men. And then the guy one of the actual men who's already said his vows says, you knelt as boys, but rise as men of the Night's Watch, which just is another theme. Jon is told to kill the boy, and
later on.
Yeah. So like it's just a lot of you are a boy, now you're a man type symbolism and verbiage. And that's when Ghost shows up with a hand.
And they're like,
a severed hand in his mouth.
What you got there?
What you got there, Ghosty? Yeah. So then we cut to Dany and Jorah. They're inside the temple of Ostothrock. I think it's the temple.
Of Ostothrock.
Yeah. She's asking what they'll do with the man that tried to kill her. Jorah says that he'll be leashed.
He's tied to a post.
Yeah.
The wine dude.
Yeah, the wine dude. Not the whiny dude. The wine dude.
Yeah, the wine connoisseur.
I come from the sewer. She says that, Jorah says that he'll be leashed to a horse and have to walk behind until he can't walk anymore.
And then she says, what happens then?
And
he said, I saw a guy go 9 miles once. Until I guess he stopped breathing.
Yeah, which is pretty rough.
They're like, he looks all the way limp now. We can probably stop torturing the horse with this dead weight.
Yeah, exactly. So she says Robert still wants her killed, and Jorah says that Robert will never abandon the hunt. He says she's a Targaryen, and that she has a Targaryen son. And she says that Robert will never have her son, that he'll never get to him. That's when Khal Drogo enters. He sees the man. He sees Dany. He walks over and asks her if she's been hurt. And then he turns to Jorah. He says, Jorah the Andal, I heard what you did. And he says, you can choose whatever horse you want. It's my gift. He then says he has another gift for his son. And then he says an iron chair to sit on.
Yeah.
I like that he still said chair.
That's because it's so insignificant to him.
Yeah, exactly. He said that they'll ride wooden horses across the poisoned sea as no cow has, or as no Heard has never done before, and that they will fight and kill men in iron suits, that they'll rape the women and make their children slaves.
Yeah, it's funny because he's like saying all this shit, and Danny looks like super behind him, and then he's like, and we're gonna kill him, and we're gonna take this shit, and we're gonna and we're gonna rape all the women. And then she just looks kind of straight faced, and he's like, and we're gonna enslave the fucking kids.
And she's
like, oh, I'm getting less and less on board with this.
Yeah,
you should have just stopped.
Can we?
While you were ahead, I'm not in love with this, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep going with it because I'm just starting to get some headway with all these people.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm not in love with the raping and the
not
the
really
kid
into
slaves.
that. Other than that, she kind of eye fucks him. So
A little bit.
a little bit. So then when it cut to the next morning, they're leaving, and the man is tied to Danny's horse. He's naked. His little dingle dangle.
Yeah, dick slinging.
Yeah. That's all for that scene. Just so you know what happened to that guy.
Just so you know his dick's out.
Yeah. Dick out, gun out.
Sure.
Anyway. So we cut to Ned. He's being approached by just some men. The man says that King Joffrey and Queen Regent request Ned's presence in the throne room, and he goes, King Joffrey? And the guy goes, yeah, King Robert died. He dead.
Like, yeah, we know. But when did this happen? Was it just like Cersei was like, oh, this is what happens. Here you go. Sit there. Put this on.
Well, like as soon as he says that, that's when the bells start ringing. So like Ned knows that like Robert's actually dead.
Got it.
So as they're walking into the throne room, Littlefinger walks up to Ned. He says that the city watch is his. You know, I did what you said. You know, I got them on board. They'll take care of you. Ned asks where Renly is, and Littlefinger says, yeah, he left the city. He rode south in haste with Loras Tyrell. And that's when they enter the throne room. Ned approaches the throne where Joffrey's sitting, Cersei's sitting beside him. She's got her whole southern hair shit going on. Joffrey says that he commands the council to make arrangements because he wants to be crowned immediately, but first he wants to hear oaths of fealty from from those around him, you know, all the people that he needs, aka Ned.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's when Ned's like, well, before that, he's like, Sir Barrister, you're an honorable man, so you can make sure that this is right. And so Barrister takes the documentation. He says that the seal is Robert's and it's unbroken, and that's when he breaks it and reads Robert's letter, which says that, you know, Ned is the protector and that until the rightful heir. Cersei asked to see the letter.
Rightful heir.
Yeah.
And that's important word there.
Yeah, exactly. That's a legal technicality.
Because Joffrey looked a little weird like when he said that.
Yeah. I think Joffrey definitely knows he's not Robert's.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cersei asks to see the letter. She looks at it and she starts ripping it up, and she says, "Is that meant to be your shield, Lord Stark? A piece of paper?" Which is what some people. I work with leases, and there are tenants that act like that, and I want to be like, you can't just do that shit.
I thought that was just a piece of paper I signed. Yeah, well, it was, but here, I'll remind you of what it means.
Yeah, let me remind you.
Yeah, but she just rips that right up.
Yep, she's like, no.
Sorry, he's already sitting there.
Yeah, and Barrister is deeply troubled by this, and he goes, those are the king's words. And she says, yeah, we have a new king now, boy.
And then he's like, what the fuck? He's like, this is
Yeah.
going off the rails.
That's when you can tell the atmosphere in that room changes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And she says that Ned needs to bend the knee and they'll allow him to live his days out in the waste that he calls the North. And she demands that Barrister will take Ned. He's like, no. Like, what?
Yeah. This
like,
makes
what's happening?
No sense.
And then Joffrey starts commanding that everyone is killed, basically.
Kill them all.
Yeah. And so then Ned's like, he turns to the city watch and he says, I want you to take Cersei and Joffrey, but there will be no blood. And, I just want this controlled. And that's when the watch turns on Ned, kills all of his men. And at the same time, Littlefinger grabs Ned, puts a knife to his neck and says, I did warn you not to trust me. And that's when this episode ends.
Boom. Insane.
Yes. So
Son of a bee.
that's it.
That little finger.
That little finger.
Little son of a biscuit.
Yeah, he is a son of a biscuit. Yes.
Not as good as the last episode.
No, not as much
but
going on.
But informative.
Yes. Well, the next
And we
few
move-
will be crazy.
Yeah, the next few do get pretty fucking crazy, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, that one was interesting in the sense of, you know, the severed hand, that part is always when they start figuring out the White Walker stuff. Up north is pretty interesting.
They all officially become, they're no longer in training, so they're all officially just at the wall working now. Robert's officially gone.
Yeah.
So that's in full swing.
Ned
That chaos
Ned is
in a very questionable spot.
yeah, and that's, we don't know what's going on with Sansa and Arya at this point. Obviously we do. This is when Sansa decides to make a very stupid decision. But yeah, it's about to pop off.
Oh, yeah.
And Jaime is supposed to be taking care of the Tyrion situation, but that's already been taken care of and nobody knows that.
And
yet.
nobody knows it yet.
Yeah.
So we'll move forward with that with the next one, I'm sure.
Yeah, so
I'm trying to see some more Bronn and Tyrion.
Yeah.
Because that's the shit.
Yes, very good.
All right, folks.
That's it.
That's it on that one. Listen to Murd Up.
Yep.
MurdUpPodcast.com.
Murder.
Listen to that shit on iTunes. Murder stories.
Cut 'em up.
Cut 'em up.
Yeah.
Haven't found any heads.
Never found any heads.
You'll get that if you listen to it.
Yeah, if not, okay.
Whatever. If not, we'll see you at the next Throne Thugs.
Yeah. Bye.
Peace out.